So last coding stream, so last Sunday, so long ago. Oh right, I was gonna say that I finally I'm getting back into the work mode, right? So I'm getting up kind of early in the morning. So I had some time before this stream was scheduled to start, and I was, watching some other streams and doing some stuff. Also thinking about like what we're gonna do on the stream today. And so this is kind of the plan. We'll see how much of this happens and where we get. So it starts off kind of concrete with looking at what's changed since the last stream, and then try to wrap up getting a thing that works, and then hopefully get to the point where we can go into the UI and try to figure out how like the workflow is going to work for like taking a stream. And I think if we can get both the silence detection and this transcription API stuff to work, then maybe we can start looking at how that's going to work in the front end to like trigger those things. So that's kind of a loose plan. And again, I don't know how far we're going to get into that today. We'll see. But first, what happened since last time, right? So I'll probably make this a little bit bigger. Is that legible on stream? I guess if you're on mobile, you may be SOL. Hey, Death Row. Welcome. How's it going? Chillin'. How's your head? All right, so basically, in short, what I did, you woke up feeling okay, that's good. In short, what I did, I think this was yesterday, right? So we were working on, hold on, let me see, let's go down a little more. All right. So we were working on this endpoint, this detect endpoint that takes essentially a file that's on disk, and you give it the path, and it goes and it uses FFMpeg. Let's scroll down a little bit here. So it uses FFmpeg to get the audio track out of the file, and then it runs this whisper command and passes in. It just like pipes in the audio from FFmpeg into it and says process this and extract the words. And so we did all that last time, except for the part where we're actually passing in which file to use. We had it like hard coded before to a path and like the track. And so the main thing I did here was I added like actually using the request body here. And then we have, let's see, let's expand this a little bit. So here's the detect segment input. I also added language and initial prompt. So Whisper lets you put in some initial text to like prime it. It's not quite the same as like a prompt with GPT, but it is something that gives a little bit of it's like priming an actual like a pump. Anyway, so I did add a language option if we wanted to do other languages, although I'm not. You should go back to learning Rust. I know Magic is taking up all your free time. Yeah, games be like that. That's kind of one of the things I like about having, like, when I started streaming, was that like in March, and having like a schedule where I would do one day with this game and one day with this game, and just like definitely, because prior to like streaming, when I would play a game, I would jump in and I would just like do all hours outside of work would be that until I got burned out on it, and then I'd switch over to something else, and then it would just kind of like cycle. And, having, a schedule doesn't make it feel too much like work, but does help a little bit with that. Yeah, so, and then I found this temp file crate that we're using now to make a temporary directory, because we need a directory for the JSON that Whisper is going to dump out. And so then we're reading that file that gets generated now from that temp directory. And then and then I'm just doing some post-processing on the JSON that we get back. So we read the JSON that Whisper spits out, and now I am converting the it's like a floating point number in the JSON. So I'm converting that. That's like a number of seconds with a fractional amount between where the each segment of text from the transcription starts and stops in the context of that video. So we're grabbing those. We're doing some preparation of that data. Line 233. Wait, 233? 233. This one? What do you mean? You have an expression, and then it's nested. And there's no semicolon because I mean, technically, if you like this and then into response on the same line, yeah. I guess what you could do is you could do like hold on. Let's take a look at that. Why is that like that? Did that just auto get formatted that way? 233. See if I do this. Yeah, it likes it that way. Yeah, Rust format makes long match arms into blocks. I don't know why it has a return with no semicolon though. Apparently it's fine like that. I'm pretty sure, let's see, Control-Shift-P, format. How do I see what the current formatter is that VS Code is using? It's not prettier. I'm assuming it's like a Rust FMT. I guess you could probably like, if you wanted to work around that, you could do like let response. This keyboard, where's the equal sign? There it is. I wonder if this is going to change the way it wants to format the nope. Nope. Better or worse? I don't know. I wonder if I put a semicolon here, would it eat that? Nope, okay. So that's acceptable to it. I don't know. I think the amount of time I've spent doing Rust on stream is the bulk of the time I've done Rust. Okay, so anyway, I think we're basically done with the recap. And then I started working on, so the idea with these APIs is because, taking a couple steps back, like the goal with all of this is that I have a folder. I have a folder of all of the recordings, the local recordings I make of these streams. So this guy here, which I have been working on archiving, but we're sitting at about 1.5 terabytes of video, and so like here's the one that's being recorded right now. Where was I going with this? Right. So what I want to do is I want to be able to take all of those video files from like a stream and extract all of the audio and turn it into, text. What did I say? And then use that and give that to GPT-4 to be like, give a summary of this. Identify topics in this. Here's timestamps with those things that I said. What are some interesting, like, for the topics, where were the parts in the video where I talked about that topic? Those sorts of things, right? So, but like, as we determined, I think last stream, it takes about 1.5 minutes for Whisper, so OpenAI's Whisper Python program, to do speech to text for one 20-minute segment. So we don't want to have like an API endpoint that would just take all of the files from a stream, which is like 3, maybe 4 hours, depending, of files, and do it all in one API call. We want to have we have a detect segment API endpoint that does a single file, and then the goal here is going to be to have this detect endpoint that is going to dispatch out to our task API, and the task API is going to then in turn call back to the transcription API to detect segment to do each individual file, and that way we can have like a background process. So the detect endpoint is asynchronous, right? We're just going to invoke the task API and then be done, and the task API, the task worker, will be responsible for then calling detect segment and doing the work and stitching together all the responses. And then we need to implement something to be able to get the information back from the Redis database from the task API, which we'll have to start looking into as we start working on kind of the UI side of things. So Brainless said, if it is the way the formatter sets it, then it's fine with me. It just looks weird after working on Ruby for so long. Yeah, it looks kind of weird from like a JavaScript TypeScript perspective too. You have that whole thing with what's it called? where you'll have automatic semicolon insertions, especially around return. If it wasn't for that, I would probably just not even use semicolons in JavaScript. But there's a gotcha there with that. So you got your distro installed. Awesome. What was it? It was Endeavor. Never heard of Endeavor. Let me know how it is. Have you used that before, or is this a new thing that you're trying? So the detect endpoint is kind of the next thing to do, and probably this plus whatever we need to do on the task API side of things. New to you, been using Manjaro for the past 4 years. I think I've heard of that. And this is also Arc based. I've not, there was a point a number of years ago where I was trying out lots of different distros and those sorts of things. And then I think I ended up landing on, let's see, Gentoo for a while, and then NixOS. And then so many things in gaming wise and then also work wise ended up being Windows stuff, that I've just not done a lot of Linux things in the last few years, which, yeah, it's a whole thing. I think right before that, there's this thing called Linux from scratch. I did that. And again, this was a lot of years ago. And then NixOS was much easier than that. But that's not like an apples to apples comparison or anything. That's just kind of like chronologically how things played out. Anyway, so I mean, this part is fine, right? We're just pulling stuff out of body, and we're grabbing our HTTP client. That was something I added to AppState after last stream, and then we are this HTTP client is coming from request with a W. I'm importing it somewhere, probably at the top, but yeah. It's that crate. And then we are making a post to task API URL, which again is coming from state. It's coming from environment variables from our Docker Compose. Hopefully these are right. I guess we're going to find out. And then we're posting a URL, a payload, and a data key. And I think that's right. Right. So if we look back at what we tried to do before, and this was working, right? Where we were using Postman to call the task API. We were calling API records tasks. Is that what we configured here? Oh, right. So when we're calling it from Postman, we're going through our Nginx proxy. So API records tasks is the endpoint that is configured via Nginx. Right, so we have API records tasks, and we strip off API records, so it's just tasks for the actual endpoint. And we're sending a URL. This is basically like the callback URL that the task worker will use, and the payload is what the task worker will send along with the cursor, and data key is what it should look in the response from this endpoint to look for the data that's it's going to accumulate. And then all of this should match what the our other endpoint up here, the detect segment endpoint, wants to take, which I think it does. And data key is segments here. We don't want to do we don't want to unwrap this though. Do something like we probably want to look at the response. So I want to say let response. That's not where the equals key is. There we go. At some point, I may do something like what Copilot is suggesting here, where I have like some wrapper functions for calling APIs, but that's not necessary right now. And then where are my curly braces? Are they? Aha! Might be good. All right. Brainless said, this one seems interesting thus far. It has a pretty neat installation tool, allows for multiple desktop environments, this post-installation task menu. Okay. Sounds like good things. What is this not happy about? We are... Oh yeah, we're not returning anything at the bottom. Interesting. Do I have a common API lib task, or is that just made up thing? I don't even remember. It's a made up thing. Okay. We do want to do something with the response. What does the response actually look like? I don't know. Let's say something like this, right? And then we'll just have an empty JSON response. Is that tracing trace? Is that what we're doing elsewhere? Probably. Not a lot of logging happening in these. Probably should do something about that at some point. I don't remember what tracing level we set for the processes, so let's do that. Oops. I think that's right. Okay. I think we can just try this. Ooh, all right. Well, that's happening. Let me pull up the UI. Let me think about how this is going to work. All right. So, for those that haven't seen it, this is my React admin-based user interface. I guess we don't have a dark mode for this. We should add a dark mode because it's so bright. All right, you need to optimize my Docker file. Yeah, sure, if you'd like. I mean, potentially. I mean, right now I'm still using for all the services the one Docker file, and maybe that's okay. Although, not all the services need all the same dependencies, but for right now it seems okay. Okay, so how does this work? Do I even have sorting? I don't think I implemented sorting. Okay, so I don't have sorting yet. But what we can do is we can create a record. And so let's say, actually what would be really great is if I knew the last one that I had. But again, I don't have sorting, so it's kind of unfortunate. I should probably implement that. I see 11:30. Do we see anything from this? Yeah, 12:1. I just don't want to add a duplicate. I guess I could just add one from okay, 12:1 might be the latest, but I'll just let's just add one from the previous stream, right? We'll just add the previous stream, so that would have been 2024-01-03. Oh, there we go. 01-03, and this was hold on. What was the title of the stream? What I would like to do, I think it's on the backlog of things to do here, is actually grab information from Twitch, or maybe go the other way where I use this tool to like set stream titles when I'm setting up streams and have it go that way, or some kind of synchronization. Right. So now that record exists. And what we can do is I have this fancy thing here called scan for clips. This runs API that uses the prefix to look for all the files locally with that prefix, and then ingests all the video clips. So here's all the video clips from the stream from my last stream. And because the names are how they are, it knows the correct ordering. And we have like all the metadata about the files and where they are on disk and all those things. So this is not saved yet though. Save that. Now I'm assuming it's going to be on the second page. Or no, I don't know what the kind of default sorting is here. I guess I should just be looking for there we go. Okay. And so there's a couple of things I want to be able to do from here. We'll get back to the code here in a second, because I think well, to the service anyway, because I think the build is done. But just as a, to not skip around too much, I'll just say that there's two things I want to be able to do. And I think I want to be able to do them to the whole stream recording, like all of the files. One is to do the transcription, the thing we've been working on most recently. And then the other thing is to do silence detection. Where is it? Where am I talking? Where am I not? It's kind of interesting. I say that, but having said that, given that we're doing the transcription and we're going to have like segments, and so we're going to know like where I'm saying words, maybe the silence detection would be more appropriate for like the game audio track. Detecting where there are silences and not in the like. Well, it's kind of interesting, at least for the coding streams. Maybe the silence detection is not going to be so useful for those, specifically because I have the audio, or the music, but that's on a separate track, and it's basically just always going. And then I have my voice, but I don't have any, I'm not playing a game. There's not any other audio, like application audio. So maybe for this kind of video, the audio transcription, speech to text is going to be enough to also detect. That'll be all that we need. Maybe for the gameplay videos, though, the silence detection will be more useful for detecting when stuff is going on in the game, especially at like different threshold values. Could be interesting. Something to think about. But anyway, so we want to have something somewhere in the UI to be able to kick those things off. We might have like buttons here, or maybe from the list view. So like you would be able to select a record. Again, sorting and filtering would be good here, but I haven't built that yet. It's like you would select the option, and then you would have potentially you could bulk do that. I mean, that would be the point of having that operation here in the list view, is to be able to like select multiple records and kick off like transcribe all of these streams. So maybe not so important. We could do that inside of this view. I think in the Django version of this, what I had was I have to go look at the database model for all of this, because I think the way I had it before was the assumption was you were going to split the stream up into episodes first, and then you were going to just transcribe the individual episodes. I have to look at what transcriptions. Yeah, that's not implemented yet. Okay, so we'll look at that in a little bit. So I think, though, yeah, this is completed. So we're going to try actually calling the API. So I think, so we have API transcription detect is what we're going to call, rather than a segment. Now this is probably not going to work. Because what this is supposed to do is it's supposed to take this information and then call the task API to like queue up a background task that gets processed. And it's supposed to like return a thing so we can ask the task API what the status is, but part of that's not like we're not returning that yet, but we're gonna hopefully see something in the Docker output for this. And this is fine. We're just going to process one file. So the idea here is you can pass multiple files, like all the files from a stream, and it would do them serially. Although I guess it could do them in parallel if we bolted to do that, but we didn't, because we didn't really design the kind of the interface between the task service and our other services to do that. How would we do that? We have to have some way of like communicating like how to generate. A different way of doing the task API could have been to be like, okay, we're going to send a list of tasks, and then it could invoke the API with, you know, it could like fan out or something. Or we could have it put each individual task onto the queue, like each individual file. But that's not the approach we took here, because I think I wanted to be able to support that idea of having, like, you would be in a list view and you would select multiple things and you would trigger off multiple things, but each thing would be processed serially as it was working through. Hey, Nomad Pixel. You're just starting on a Rust backend, React on frontend project a few hours ago? Well, how about that? That's what I'm sort of working on. Are you, is it your first time using Rust? Well, it's a big world, right? There's like billions of people out there. Surely a few people are doing the same thing. Yeah, welcome in. You used it professionally too for at least 3 years? Nice. I'm thinking, yeah, I've used Rust on a couple of small open source projects, which this is an open source project, but I've not used Rust professionally ever. What languages have I put into production? In the last decade. Oh, hey!
Converter just followed.
Converter, thank you for the follow. You're this guy. Using it with Wasm. Oh, neat. Amazon.science. Fancy, fancy. I've done Clojure and ClojureScript in production a number of years ago. CoffeeScript and JavaScript and TypeScript and Java. I mean, the Java should go without saying when I say Clojure, but Scala and Lua. other things, but oh, and Python, lots of Python from my last job before the current one. But yeah, so I'm gonna run this and see how it fails. All right, so we got an empty response. That's good. In this case, let's go over to Docker and see. Oh yeah, I didn't put Docker as a tag on this. I usually do. I'll put Docker as a tag on the stream. I wish there was a way to like have preset like lists of tags for like the stream description. Actually, let me. Hold on, where's my list? Oh, that's the wrong list. So I have like a bunch of different projects in GitHub for tracking things I want to do. Oh yeah, there we go. Stream tags. Well, that's kind of general, but that's I think that's what I was thinking there. Anyway, okay. Back to what was I doing? Transcription API? No. Yes. No, yes. What time is it? 9:12? Okay, so this is interesting. This means that we did successfully send the message to the task API. The task API queued the work. The task worker took the work, called the API back, and is now transcribing the words from the video. There he goes. Now we saw some of this in the last stream last Sunday, but now it's more wired together. There we go. Let's save that. I said. I think that was this is still the video from last week. All right, so trace debug. Where are we dumping the response from the task API? Task API response. There we go. So this is the response we get back from the task API. Status 200 headers. 304. Why did we get back at 304? Oh no, that's content length. Content length 304. I guess it's not going to output the body of the response unless we do extra work. Just the headers. That makes sense, but is inconvenient for the purposes of debugging, to understanding what we're getting back. Okay, we can probably check for a 200 status though, and do some extra error handling and stuff. Although, well, here's a question. So what does an error represent here? Hold on, hover over JSON. Send a JSON body. Yeah. Serialization fails. Send. Here we go. This method fails if there was an error while sending a request, for redirect loop was detected, or redirect limit was exhausted. What does that mean if there was an error while sending the request? I mean, the way I read that is that if we fail to actually make the request, we get an error. But if we make the request and we get like a 500, that's not an error. Can we, what is this response? Okay, this is strut. Okay. Yes, I am using request. I think up at the top here in this service, we are putting the client in the app state. There we go, right there. And I like it as a name. Although, when I say request, I don't know how to enunciate that, really. I guess I could say request? In a way that makes it clear it's the one with the W. But anyway, so let's see here. Let's see if I can get Copilot to write this for me. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Log is the body of the response. Sure. That'll be a couple minutes before we can test that out. You need to check to see response is success if you want to verify you received 400. Yes, I think Copilot just wrote that for me. Response status is success. Yep. So if it's not a success, then we return like a 500 error. Now, would I have written exactly like this if I haven't actually written it myself? I don't know. But I think it'll be okay. So, while waiting for that, let's come back to here. And I think one of the things I was thinking about, so I have this, I'm kind of leery of adding more things to this view. It could though. Oh, right. So I was gonna look at the database model. That's right. So, where did we stick all that stuff? I think that was in the CRUD API, right? Okay, so we have... have we not even defined episodes or transcripts or any of that stuff? I guess not, because we haven't needed it yet. So the model that I have so far is just stream and video clip. So in the Django version of this that I originally wrote like a couple months, however long ago that was, 2 months ago, I don't know. 3. We had streams, we had video clips, we had episodes, and we had transcripts. Like this, and then topics, I guess, is just like tags. And so the idea was that you have a stream, which I think is pretty self-explanatory if you're watching this on Twitch right now. And then you have video clips, and so the video clips are the individual like files recording 20-minute segments of the stream. And then you have episodes, and episodes are not necessarily made out of video clips, but are just like time regions within the stream. Is what I'm going with. You could think of a more general concept where it's like, oh, well, you could have video clips from multiple streams and get assembled and stuff. And I'm not going to do that. That's not really what I'm trying to do here, but you could do it like that. And then you have, right, so that's episodes. And then you have transcriptions, and the idea was to have like these individual transcription records. Does that make sense anymore? We could, for instance, have, we could just have all of the segments that we're transcribing dumped into the stream or into the video clip. Into the video clip might make sense, because the video clip is what has the audio. On the other hand, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's interesting. So because if we store like the whole transcript of the stream at the level of the stream, right? Then what we're saying, what is this not? Okay, it's just loading. Because I think regardless, we're gonna have like a list of segments. I don't know if we still have that in Postman, like the example response from when we are. Nope, don't have it anymore. Anyway, so this API though, this API, detect segment, actually returns like a list of segments, and then we call it repeatedly across all the files in the stream, and that gives us, well, maybe a list of segments, but basically just a bunch of like 30-second maybe sections of the audio and what words were said during that period of time. And so we could just dump that whole list into the stream record, like we have video clips, and then we have all the transcript segments. And because we'll have the information of when that segment of transcript came from the whole thing, that can be translated back into which video clip it came from. Now, I think the thinking behind having it tied to the episodes is that, generally speaking, the use cases here are around, or the way I was imagining it, and the way it was kind of sort of working in the Django version of this, was that you would have the stream, and then you would do silence detection to find basically where I take a break in the stream, which is coming up here in a couple minutes, and then you would use that to create episodes from the video clips. So like, or rather, here's the points in time where like an episode from the stream starts and stops. And then in that episode, you would want the transcript of what was said, so you can feed that to ChatGPT or GPT-4 and get like a summary of the episode, which is what I have started to do manually on the videos on YouTube. Is that although I'm not using this yet to do that, I'm taking the transcript generated by YouTube, and I take that and I paste that into ChatGPT with a prompt, and it generates a description, and I clean that up a bit and put that into the segment of the VOD, and it's okay. I'm refining the prompt. But that's kind of what I wanted to do with this. But what is going to make sense? Because maybe it makes more sense to like transcribe the whole video, the whole stream, and have that whole thing and display that. Now there's something to be said about having that as a separate record though that's associated with the stream. One, because that's more that's the kind of thing you do with relational databases, which is not really a reason, but it's going to make it easier for us to, in the UI, since we are, well, like we can make our API that's backing the UI do whatever, but it might make things simpler. As an example, what you could do, right? Is that we have, like, we're looking at this page here for this record, which maybe we don't want to show the GUID as this here, but anyway, so this is a record in a database, and so we have from our React admin front end, it's calling our API, our CRUD API, to get this record, and that's just getting a row from a database, right? But we could have, a separate API for getting the transcripts. But actually, all of that's doing is it's just getting a transcript segments column from the same database record and returning that here. And again, yeah, that's not implemented yet. But I don't know. Nomad Pixel, can you go through the architecture of your project? How do you connect npm run dev to your Rust server? Are you using some config on the React router and host them both locally? Not that good at React. Yeah, I can try to do that. Let's see. Where would a good place to start? Let's start with the Docker Compose. So, and there's a lot of stuff here. So let me just like collapse down things a little bit. Okay. So this, and I got to put a caveat first. So this is not a lot of things. One, this is set up currently just for me to run it locally inside of Docker, so that it's just easy to run everything, kind of like in a development mode. It's caveat one. Two, this is really set up for me to be able to, I have the separate Docker Compose override to map local folders where I'm recording locally into these volumes. So this is not ready for prime time, if you will. This is not ready to be deployed anywhere. This is not something you would deploy anywhere, but it gets the job done right now. So, let me give you like a 1 or 2 minute thing because we gotta take a break so I can get some more water and Twitch wants to run an ad. But basically, we have a front end. The front end is using it's a Node 18 Alpine Docker image, and I just have it running npm install and npm run dev as the commands here, and then I have some stuff here to like have a anonymous volume is I think the wrong term, but basically a volume for node modules, and then I'm mapping my local front end folder into a designated place inside of the Docker container. And so I have this running. So I have the Vite dev environment running inside of Docker, and then I have an Nginx proxy in front of everything. So there's an Nginx config that like routes all the URLs, all the subpaths for where this is being hosted, which is localhost 8080, to all the individual API microservices. And then there's a bunch of microservices. So like here's a CRUD API. They all are basically the same, where they are using a custom Docker file that is running the built. It's building and running the particular service. And then I'm passing in environment variables to tell it like where it is in the world. And there's health check and other stuff here. And then I have a Postgres database and a Redis instance in containers with volumes and persistence for the Redis server. Yeah, okay. So that's maybe not the best summary, but that's kind of what's going on. If you have more specific questions, I can kind of go into that more after the break. So we'll continue working on this project, which has the name Glowing Telegram for